The courtroom was completely silent when the prosecutor held up the final piece of evidence. A printed bank authorization bearing billionaire Marcus Whitmore's digital signature. To the jury, it looked undeniable. Millions of dollars had disappeared from Whitmore Technologies accounts over 6 months, transferred through fake shell companies before vanishing overseas. Investors lost fortunes, employees lost jobs, news channels called it one of the biggest corporate fraud cases in years. And every trail led directly to Marcus. The once respected billionaire now sat quietly beside his attorney looking exhausted, older than he had just months earlier. Cameras flashed constantly from the back of the courtroom while reporters whispered updates to national news stations. Outside, crowds already believed he was guilty. Inside, things looked even worse. The defendant carefully planned these thefts, the prosecutor declared confidently. He believed his wealth and influence would protect him. Jurors listened carefully. Marcus lowered his eyes, because despite his legal team fighting for months, the evidence kept getting stronger. Digital signatures, financial records, internal witnesses, even trusted executives from his own company testified against him. Everything pointed toward conviction. In the last row of the courtroom, 14-year-old Nia Johnson sat nervously gripping a worn backpack against her chest. Nobody noticed. She wore simple clothes, old sneakers, and looked completely out of place among wealthy executives and television reporters. But inside that backpack sat something powerful enough to destroy the entire case. Nia's hands trembled slightly while she watched the trial continue. 3 weeks earlier, she had been volunteering at a small community technology center after school, repairing donated laptops and recovering deleted files for local families. Computers were her world. Ever since she was little, coding came naturally to her. While other kids played games online, Nia studied encryption systems, cybersecurity forums, and advanced programming tutorials late into the night, using free public Wi-Fi. Most adults had no idea how brilliant she truly was. Then one evening, a damaged company laptop arrived at the center, Whitmore Technologies property. The device was scheduled for recycling after being wiped remotely during the investigation. But something felt wrong. Nia discovered hidden encrypted folders buried deep inside the system logs. Curious, she started tracing the data pathways. And what she found terrified her. Someone had manipulated the company servers, not hacked randomly, carefully, professionally. Entire transaction histories were altered using cloned administrator credentials designed to frame Marcus perfectly. Fake approvals replaced original files. Security timestamps were rewritten. Digital signatures copied with frightening precision. The deeper Nia dug, the clearer the truth became. Marcus Whitmore wasn't the criminal, he was the target. At first, she tried emailing authorities. Nobody responded. She contacted legal offices connected to the case. Ignored. No adult took her seriously. After all, who would believe a teenage girl from a poor neighborhood uncovered something federal investigators missed? So Nia made a decision herself. She would go directly to the courtroom. Now, sitting quietly in the back row, she realized time was running out. The prosecutor turned confidently toward the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence leaves no reasonable doubt. Marcus's attorney closed his eyes briefly. Even Marcus looked defeated. The judge adjusted papers on the bench. We will now prepare for final instructions before deliberation. Nia's heart pounded harder. If the jury left the room, it might be too late. She looked down at her backpack one last time, then stood up suddenly. I can prove he's innocent. He's innocent. The entire courtroom froze instantly. The courtroom exploded into confusion. Reporters lifted cameras instantly while attorneys began shouting over one another. Jurors turned toward the back row in shock as 14-year-old Nia stood trembling beside her seat, clutching her backpack tightly. The judge slammed his gavel hard. Order, order. But the tension only grew stronger. The prosecutor looked furious. Your Honor, remove her immediately. 2 security officers started moving toward Nia, but she didn't sit down. Instead, she raised her voice again. He didn't steal the money, she shouted. The company servers were altered. Marcus Whitmore slowly turned around for the first time. Their eyes met across the courtroom. For a brief second, Marcus saw something unexpected in the teenager's expression. Not fear. The judge stared down at her carefully. Young lady, this is a federal courtroom. Do you understand what you're interrupting? Nia swallowed nervously but nodded. Yawned nervously, but nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Then explain yourself quickly. The prosecutor laughed impatiently. This is absurd. She's a child. But Nia immediately responded. And you never checked the original server logs. The courtroom suddenly became quieter. Because even the prosecutor hesitated, Marcus's attorney leaned forward immediately. "What did you say?" Nia slowly stepped into the aisle while opening her backpack carefully. Inside were a laptop, printed documents, and several external hard drives. "I repair computers at a community tech center," she explained shakily. One of Whitmore Technologies' laptops was donated there after the investigation started. The prosecutor rolled his eyes. "That hardware was wiped." Nia looked directly at him. "No," she said quietly, "not completely." That answer changed the energy in the room instantly. Marcus's attorney stood up fast. "Your Honor, I request permission to hear this testimony." The prosecutor objected immediately. "She's unqualified. This is ridiculous." But before the judge could respond, Nia pulled out printed screenshots from her backpack. There were hidden encrypted backups inside the deleted partitions, she explained. Whoever changed the financial records forgot to erase mirrored authentication logs. Marcus's attorney grabbed the papers quickly. Then his entire expression changed, because the documents showed something impossible. Administrative access timestamps created after Marcus had already been locked out of company systems by the board itself, meaning someone else used cloned credentials to frame him. Whispers spread across the courtroom instantly. The prosecutor's confidence began disappearing. Nia opened her laptop and continued speaking, now more confidently. "I traced the altered transactions through internal proxy reroutes. The fake approvals all came from one private executive server." Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "How did you even find this?" his attorney asked quietly. His attorney's The hacker made one mistake. She connected the laptop to the courtroom display screen. Lines of code and server logs appeared instantly. They reused a hidden authorization key across multiple transactions, she explained. Most people wouldn't notice it unless they understood encryption mapping. Several reporters looked completely stunned. Even the judge leaned forward now. The prosecutor tried interrupting again. "This proves nothing." But Nia calmly clicked another file. A hidden video recording appeared on the courtroom screen, and suddenly, the room went silent. Because sitting inside a private office were two Whitmore Technologies executives discussing how to blame Marcus for the missing money before the investigation even officially began. One executive clearly said, "Once the records are rewritten, Whitmore takes the fall." Marcus's attorney nearly dropped the documents. Jurors stared in shock. The prosecutor's face lost all color. And standing there beside the courtroom screen with her worn backpack still hanging from one shoulder, Nia realized she had just shattered the biggest fraud case in the country. The courtroom sat in complete silence after the video ended. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The recording still echoed in everyone's minds. "Whitmore takes the fall." The words destroyed everything the prosecution spent months building. Jurors stared at the screen in disbelief while reporters rushed to send breaking news updates across the country. Even the judge looked stunned by what had just unfolded inside his courtroom. Marcus Whitmore sat frozen beside his attorney. For the first time since the investigation began, hope returned to his face. The prosecutor quickly stood up, visibly shaken. "Your Honor, we need time to verify this evidence." Marcus's attorney immediately responded. "You had months to verify the truth." The tension in the room became overwhelming. Meanwhile, Nia stood quietly near the witness stand, still holding her backpack, suddenly aware that every eye in the courtroom was focused on her. The judge adjusted his glasses carefully. "Young lady, are you telling this court you uncovered all of this alone?" Nia nodded nervously. "Yes, Your Honor." Several jurors exchanged stunned looks. Because the girl standing before them wasn't a professional investigator, not a government expert, not a millionaire attorney. Just a teenager from a neighborhood most powerful people ignored. And somehow, she exposed a corporate conspiracy hidden from federal investigators, cybersecurity teams, and elite lawyers. Marcus slowly stood to his feet. The courtroom became quiet again immediately. He looked directly at Nia with emotion visible across his face. "You saved my life," he said softly. Nia looked down shyly. "I just wanted the truth." That answer affected the entire room. Because unlike the executives who lied for money and power, Nia acted for one simple reason: it was right. Suddenly, one of the jurors raised a hand slightly. "Your Honor, if these files are authentic, then the defendant was framed from the beginning." The judge nodded slowly. "That now appears highly possible." The prosecutor looked desperate. "We still need forensic confirmation." "You'll get it," the judge interrupted firmly. "But this court will not ignore evidence of this magnitude. Reporters rushed from the courtroom, already broadcasting the dramatic reversal live. Within minutes, news channels nationwide exploded with headlines. Teen girl exposes corporatee frame up billionaire, or maybe an ancient mystery of course courtroom. But inside the courtroom, Marcus only focused on Nia. Why didn't you give up when nobody listened to you? He asked quietly. Nia hesitated before answering. Because everybody kept calling you guilty before they even looked for the truth. Marcus lowered his head briefly, visibly emotional. For months, powerful people abandoned him, friends disappeared, business partners turned against him, even strangers celebrated his downfall online. But a 14-year-old girl who owed him nothing refused to let an innocent man be destroyed. The judge finally spoke again. This court is officially suspending proceedings pending immediate federal review of this new evidence. Gasps spread through the room. Marcus Whitmore was no longer a convicted billionaire. Now he was the victim. As security escorted stunned executives from the courtroom for questioning, Marcus walked slowly toward Nia. Then, in front of reporters, attorneys, and jurors, the billionaire did something nobody expected. He hugged her tightly. And standing there with tears in his eyes, Marcus realized something powerful. Sometimes the person brave enough to save your life isn't powerful at all. Sometimes, it's the one nobody notices, to force